Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Adult Music. The
15?
Podcast. 15. 10 plus 5.
We're already on 15? Wow.
Seems like it. Time goes by. On the podcast with music for the mature mind.
Yeah.
Russ and Mike here as always, but wait. I smell something.
Oh no.
French?
What could that be? What could that be?
Smells French.
Oh. You know what that smell is? That is the smell of our French fried brains, because we we listen to French music all week.
We did
this week, and we're gonna French our audience.
We're gonna get Frenched
because we love them so much. So prepare to be Frenched, everybody.
A little caveat at the beginning here. Although I do have French blood running through my veins, I did opt to study Spanish in my education, which is not going to help me in my pronunciation. So we do have some listeners in France. I apologize in advance for butchering any pronunciation, but it's all about the music here. We're not going to get caught up on linguistic sort of problems. And
we're going to get caught up on timbre, aren't we? That's what we're going to get caught up on.
That's
French timbres. Yeah. I did study French, so I should be okay. But if anyone wants to write to me and complain, feel free, because I want to learn.
Okay. You have to help me out tonight, because we've got almost, well, what do we got? 5/6 French program with a little Germanic Austrian addition at the end.
It's another all European night. I think the Americans are gonna get a little bent out of shape about that. We seem to be like Eurocentric these days. I don't know what's happening.
Next week I will have a dose of Americana in the jazz part. Anyway,
I can't wait. That'll be great. But I'm actually looking forward to tonight, because I have traded in my Knob Creek bourbon for the evening for a nice Camus cognac.
Oh, you got a cognac,
which I have in my snifter right here, and this is going to make me feel all ready for the French music that we're going to talk about.
The only French spirits I have left in my adult beverage cabinet is a bottle. What is it? No. It's absinthe, and having had a scary experience with absinthe a while back, it just sits there. So,
you had a scary experience with absinthe, like the like all those 1920s Americans in Paris?
Well, this could be a whole different episode, but let's just say that the supposed extra high or lift you get from it, it sort of peaks and goes away at some point, and then it just becomes another drunk. But I believe I reached the toxicity of wormwood and woke up in the middle of the night with a racing heartbeat, and it wasn't very pleasant. So I've never wanted to repeat that experience. So, it's in there anyway. Next time you come over, let's try it.
Yeah, I've drunk absinthe before it's just kind of like any other alcohol, really, except that it's delicious.
This is not I had a bottle of the very fine French absinthe, and this is like a Czech variant, which is supposed to be the highest 2-zone content, which is probably not a good thing to go for. It sounded good at the time, but
I've heard that whole idea that the wormwood in absinthe causes brain damage over time is nonsense, actually. I don't know what's true anymore. It's hard to get any accurate information, but I heard that was just a rumor that wasn't true.
I hope so.
But a lot of those artists did go crazy. I think a lot of them went crazy, though, like the painters, because they were inhaling toxic fumes from the paint they were using.
Could be. I hope I don't have any brain damage. I mean, what did I say?
Yeah. But Hemingway didn't go crazy, did he? He drank a lot of absinthe. He did kill himself, but yeah, I don't know. Was he crazy? Maybe he was crazy before he.
That's possible too.
Before he left the States, I don't know.
Never know.
Yeah, I know. F. Scott Fitzgerald died before he could show any hint of being crazy. Anyway, all right. Well, let's go way far before that time in France. Back to around the time of Louis XIV. Actually, maybe a little after him. I'm not really sure, actually, with this. All right, so our first album for tonight, we're going to the Baroque era, back to the Baroque. Last week we started in the Romantic era, and I always like my nice Baroque.
Let's wind back to the Baroque.
My big Baroque hit there, you know. And the name of the album is Forqueray Unchained. Forqueray. I hope I said that right. Okay.
We should say that this is French with an ample dash of Italian. Yeah.
We'll get to that in a moment. Anyway, I just wanted to say, in fact, it is on the Arcana label, which is and they're not really an Italian label, but I think they do a lot of their recordings in Italy. They're part of like the Out There group. They also put out Alpha and things like that. But the Arcana, the notorious for adult music Arcana label, because that Italian guitarist was recorded on this label. I remember we had. It kind of sounded like it was recorded in a...
Oh, Under the Blanket,
Under the Blanket, yeah.
And I'm happy to say this recording is not like that at all.
No, not at all. I was a little worried about that. I was like, how's this whole label? No. This is how they record. But no, it's not the case. This is really beautiful.
You can hear more than necessary on this album.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I don't want to say any kind of squeaks and things in here. They're kind of really charming. I liked it a lot. There. Okay, you're right there. You hear the chair creaking and all those things. I actually like the woody creak. I mean, you know that these people aren't sitting in office chairs, and that always kind of relieves me. You know, there's something. Yeah,
you can hear bowing, extra bowing sounds. You can hear fretting slides. It's that clear.
Yeah, and part of the reason that is the case is because this is a recording by the viola da gamba. Should I say viola da gamba for this? Yeah, the bass viola da gamba player André. There's another name I can't really say. André Lislevand, we said, right? Is that how we're going to pronounce this? Lislevand. Lislevand. Okay. I'm guessing that's how it's said. Okay, André Lislevand. Now, he is the son of the famous, if you listen to Baroque music, the famous Baroque guitarist Rolf Lislevand, who has made many recordings on his mandolin, his Baroque guitar, and they're all fantastic. I can tell you that. Now his son is playing the viola da gamba. He also apparently plays the electric guitar, so he's not just limited to classical music. So he got the he learned the craft, and then he went out and he made his and he's being loud too, which is fantastic. Okay, now. People who, I want to mention some of the other artists on this too. This isn't just a viola da gamba. Oh, incidentally, the father, Rolf Lislevand, is also on this record, okay, playing the Baroque guitar and mandolin, as are Jadran Duncumb, I hope I said that right, the oboe and Baroque lute, and Paola Erdas on the harpsichord. One of the great things about this album is the variety of sound that this ensemble produces. They've really arranged this program of music very well. Now, first of all,
it's great. Yeah, I mean, there's the harpsichord comes in and goes out. There's actually, I think, there's a couple of tunes with just the oboe. And then
the oboe, yeah. Then there's some just for the Baroque guitar too, which is really nice. They get some Baroque guitar strumming, pretty interesting. Now, incidentally, the viola da gamba is the main instrument here, and the main composer is Forqueray, and the album is called Forqueray Unchained, as I said. And the reason for that, it's kind of an odd name. I mean, I'd say it brings to mind like Philip Roth's book Prometheus Unchained, or something like that, right? Like there's some.
Expect something to escape while you're listening to it.
Yeah, but what it actually means is Forqueray was kind of he sort of melded the French sense of timbre, which is the sound that the instrument makes. For example, if a piano and a violin play like a C note, you can tell which is the piano, which is the violin by their timbre. The piano has a piano-sounding timbre, and the violin has a violin-sounding timbre. That's Timbre, and it's pronounced timbre because English is messed up.
That's right. It's not a tree falling in the woods.
Yeah, that's not timber. It's not timber. Okay, that's a whole different thing.
Yes.
All right.
Timbre is not dangerous usually.
You're not going to build a boat with timbre, are you? Okay. But they called it, and the two Lislevands, the father and the son, said something similar about this. He combined French timbre with the Italian influences, so rhythm and sort of the virtuosity of the Italians. Forqueray, I believe, said he wanted to play the viola da gamba the way Italians played the violin. And the Italians were the great violinists of the period. Okay, just think of who was playing and also who was making violins at that time. Okay, the Stradivarius and all of these people. So he's free and unattached to any national or temporal stylistic definition. So he is unchained, and that's where we get our title from. Okay?
But you have to say that Lislevand has the sound of his instrument is just completely gorgeous.
Yeah. As are everyone's instrument on this recording.
Sure.
It's just a fantastic sounding recording. It's really worth hearing just for the sound alone. Now, if you don't know the viola da gamba, you may, if you're our age, you may remember back in your college days or around that time the movie Tous les matins du monde, the French film with Gérard Depardieu as Marin Marais. I think that's who he was, and his teacher Saint-Colombe. Okay, and that really brought this music into fashion. I think Jordi Savall played the music on that in that movie, and that really catapulted him to fame as well. If I'm remembering this right, I'm not looking it up. I'm just going from memory. Well, Forqueray is the main composer on this album, but Marais figures heavily as well.
Yes,
and there's also a piece by Louis Couperin, not the famous Couperin. Oh, and it has to be said that there's an Antoine Forqueray is the composer on this album. He's the father. There's also a Jean-Baptiste Forqueray, the son, who published these works. Okay, and so that we, for posterity, in this apparently very handsome leather bound set of music, and preserving his father's work. And even though they apparently didn't get along, Antoine Forqueray apparently had a temper, shall we say.
Oh.
Yeah, we all know what that means. Anyway, he doesn't, the temper, it's all just beautiful in the music itself. These temperamental types are actually capable of writing some beautiful music, and we get that here. A lot of these works are kind of come across as like a theme and variations or something like that, or with a few exceptions. There are also some witty. We start with Forqueray, Chacun la Buisson. He's got these like Chacun la Buisson. Now Chacun is a repeating bass line, and then there's sort of this improvised or kind of sounding like improvised melody on top of that just keeps changing as the bass line repeats. So it's sort of like if you want to think about it in rock and roll terms, it's like noodling over like a repeating bass line, except that the noodling is really high level here.
And this one you have the harpsichord is sort of sparkling lightly on the top. And
sparkling is a good word for what the harpsichord does on this album. It's a really they achieve a really nice sound, and it's a little bit in the background as well. Harpsichords are often recorded very loudly, and they're very, very quiet instruments. If you ever go to a harpsichord concert, you have to be very quiet in order to just hear the performer. So you never get an accurate sound of the harpsichord on the
what I like on a lot of these pieces, the Thoroughboy is like it gets a really nice bass line and also very interesting counterpoints sometimes, and that contrast with Gamba's, especially his lyrical playing and that full sound, but the sort of plucking in the low register really creates two interesting sort of spheres to listen to that complement each other really well. And sometimes the harpsichord is there, and usually the harpsichord is in the very high register, and it's this extra sort of, it's almost, when I was listening to it and closed my eyes, it's almost like a sort of a starry sky above it that's sort of,
unusual too, because the harpsichord is usually playing continua, which is kind of like the outlining the chords. But I guess
not here. No,
not here. It's more of a solo instrument. It's actually nice to hear it this way. It was a delightful surprise. The program, as I said, the program is arranged in such a way that the sound is always a surprise because there are all these different instruments coming in and going out. There are a few surprises too. The next one is by Marais, Allemand à double, and this is kind of comes across as like a theme in variations. The double is sort of like I guess a faster version of that Allemand. Okay, so it's like a variation on it really. Then we get a plaint, a very quiet, slow piece by Marin Marais.
Yeah, this is nice. This is really brooding.
Yeah.
And I highlighted this one as one I thought was particularly lovely. What I thought about, not only this piece, this whole album, I really think these guys may have all been having some of your cognac when they were drinking it, because every piece, regardless of whether it's a slow tempo or a rather quicker tempo, it's all extremely relaxed. There's never any sense of hurriedness in it. So although it does have, some of these Italian qualities of sort of rhythmic interest, it's extremely relaxed and unhurried, whatever tempo they take that's appropriate for the piece. And so it creates a total sort of feeling of very much relaxation and being at ease with the pieces. And I thought that was very interesting kind of continuity through the whole album. That I listened to it several times, and then each time I thought, they sound completely at home and relaxed with all of these tempos, and it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, the viola da gamba tends to come across as relaxed, and I think that has a lot to do with the instrument itself, the difficulty of really showing any agility on it. In fact, after these composers passed, the Italian cello, the violoncello, the instrument we call the cello now, just replaced it, basically, because of its agility and its more focused tone. You'll hear that there's something really diffuse about the tone of the bass viola da gamba. It kind of it sort of resonates a lot. It kind of there are a lot of how can I say, sympathetic frequencies ringing as this. It's not like a really focused, like pearly kind of sound. It's that it makes. It's sort of fuzzy on the edges, like it sort of stretches out a bit into a harmonic space, let's say.
And all of these, whether the bass or the higher register instruments, they were all played between the legs, correct? So that
these were yes, that's right. These were actually. I don't remember. I think the cello, somebody had invented the idea of like putting the cello between your legs and like propping it up that way. I think the viola da gamba, I'm not sure how these guys play it, but it might have been played like, sitting in a chair with it by your side. I'm not really sure.
I think what I'm saying
but the idea of putting the instrument between your legs was actually, somebody actually came up with that, and then that became the norm. Rather
than putting it up on your shoulder, even the higher register, the instruments were all bowed on floor level, basically, rather than holding them, up to sort of shoulder and neck level, which when I've seen pictures of it, and
paintings,
it looks
you can
odd to, what came after that and how we imagine string instruments to be, bowed and held. So,
yeah, when we think of the whole, the image of classical music today, the whole elegance of it, it's really a new quality. It really comes from the 19th century. If you can imagine, even the seeing a piano concert with you see the pianist's profile, right? You're kind of seeing the side of the piano with the logo of the piano on the side, and then you get the pianist's profile. It's just very romantic. But before Franz Liszt in the 19th century, if a pianist was playing live, he would play with his back to the audience. Can you imagine? He's not even facing the audience. Yeah, so I guess they're seeing what he's doing on the keyboard to an extent. But
maybe that's where Miles got it from.
You think? He used to
turn his back to the audience. But.
You know who else did that? Sade, the singer. She used to turn away from the audience
front
too.
And the back, though.
Yeah, she did.
Can we say that? Yeah, it's adult music. We can say that.
We're I think that's 1950s adult music at this point.
Mad Men.
We're gonna have to say there's gonna be something about that said later, by the way. So keep that in mind.
Oh, okay.
Men and women in music. Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, coming next we have La Mandoline by Antoine Forqueray, and this is he kind of portrays the mandolin gets when I think of the mandolin, I think of it, I like it, I like the sound it makes, but when it's kind of like the title of a piece or something like that, they're usually trying to evoke the Commedia dell'arte, the Pierrot and all those, those characters that were in the Commedia dell'arte. So it's got like a comic kind of character to it. So this is like a big change from the plaint.
This comes out only at the end of the piece where...
well, you only hear the mandolin at the end, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, is this really why do they call it mandolin? And then at the end, they give you the mandolin type strumming, and so you say,
they give you a guitar, though. Where does a mandolin?
It's not a mandolin, no, but it's the way a mandolin, is sort of strummed in that type of piece. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. One of these pieces, okay, after that comes La Dubruy, which I don't know what it means, by Forqueray, and then Marie-Marie's La Guitare. There are two versions of this.
And this is again, as the mandolin piece gave you sort of a la mandolin strumming, this one is strumming as a guitar would be played in. It's kind of a dance-like type of piece.
Yeah, no, I think these were originally for the viola da gamba, and then like these guys like so in other words, like Forqueray or Marais, I forget which one it is, Mandolino. I think it was this one, La Guitare. They orchestrated it for the viola da gamba, and then these musicians reorchestrated it back to what it would sound like if it was actually a guitar.
It could be. Yeah, I thought this was interesting because track 6 and 7, they're the same title, and then the first track 6 is it is like a guitar dance, and then the harmony and the basic shape of the piece in 7 is the same, except then now we have the gamba here, and the bowing on the gamba replaces the strumming from the sort of guitar effect from the beginning, and the ending is a bit different. I like these two pieces too because it's sort of in a major modality, but there's a nice change to minor that sort of flips you on unexpectedly, and then it comes back there too. So those two as a set, and the contrast of how they're played and what's also in common is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and we get the disc is the album is divided into 3 suites, and this is something the musicians put together, and they're all in the same key. So the next key is I don't even remember my French here, Ut majeur, which I think might be C. Ut is C.
Is that C?
C major. Yeah. Well, in the French way of saying it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's C major. All right. Anyway, I'm just not remembering. Anyway, the first one is the first piece we hear is Louis Couperin, not the famous Francois, but Louis. Okay. Passacaglia in Ut majeur. Now, Passacaglia, by the way, and a chaconne are the same thing. It's a repeating bass line with
and this is
kind of improvised melody on top of it. Yeah.
Just solo harpsichord.
Solo harpsichord, which is what Couperin wrote for mostly. And this, I liked, again, the sound of the harpsichord on this record is just beautiful. Maybe it's just because of the contrast with the other instruments, but I was really just taken in by that. Then there's a nice little prelude by Marie-Marie's, and then my favorite 3 works on the album, all by Forqueray. The 3 works with titles. The first one is Jupiter, Jupiter, I guess the god, not the planet, right? It could be the planet, but this was a good example of the whole melding of French and Italian melodies together. It had this really kind of active, like rhythmic kind of like melody to it, and it really drew me in.
I like this
nice
one
contrast
a lot.
In the middle too.
It has a great sense of movement, and if you listen to this one, the bass lines are prominent, and the therobo is got some nice bass lines, but then also the harpsichord too. So the lower register really comes out in these two, and the bass accentuates the movement in here. They're really enjoyable.
Yeah, and then we have La Silva, which kind of gives me a feeling of woods. I'm guessing that's what Silva is in this case. I'm thinking Pennsylvania, right? It's like that's what that means. And La Montagne, which I'm wondering if this is an old way of like saying montagno, the mountains.
This one sounds quite Italian influenced to me.
Yeah. It's got an Italian name, so that could, maybe I think he's probably thinking about that. And then we wind up with the Suite Mosaique in Ré, which is D, okay, D major, I guess. A prelude by Anonymous. Yeah, that guy Anonymous, man, he
wrote a lot of stuff.
He wrote a lot of, and it's all good.
It's all really good, yeah. He should have taken credit for that.
Yeah, he should have taken credit for that. Anyway. All right. Then we have a sarabande by Robert de Vissé. Okay, he a name that should be better known. I like his music a lot. In fact, Rolf Lislevand, the Baroque guitar player, did a whole record of not only of him and another composer that's just spectacular on the ECM label a few years back. It's called Masquerade. Look it up. Rolf Lislevand Masquerade or Masquerade, I think it was. But it was music by de Vissé and someone else. I can't remember who the other composer was now. But great to hear that here. And we end with La Ferrande and La Tranchine, two more works by Forqueray, and then de Vissé twice more, two courantes, and a piece called La Mascarade, which is what that other album is named after. Yeah. You want to say anything about these before we conclude this one? Or?
I liked all of these. Let me see.
No, I liked all of this. Yeah.
I mean, the whole album has really great continuity in the mood that it creates. There's some pieces that sound, rather more Italian influenced, but it's never overwhelming. Let's see. The sarabande, I really liked the light bowing technique on the gamba. That was nice. The La Ferrande, the harmonic changes are really nice. And a lot of the music from this period is using, triplet form. But in this piece...
They like to go from 2 to 3 a lot. And it's a nice effect.
In this place, the triplet form is expanded on and almost in like a double time, but not really. And so the rhythmic figures on that are really nice. And let's see, what else did I make a note on? Yeah, the final, the Masquerade, this is another one that emphasizes, this is just no harpsichord here, just a gamba and the robo, but this emphasizes the lower register more than any of the other pieces, so it adds a lot of weight to that final piece. And really enjoyable recording overall. Like I said, the music really flows. The approach to it is very relaxed, and that allows the tonality to come out in that French sense of way. So you really get a feel for the timbre of the instruments. And this is a recording you're not going to get tired of listening to. It just creates a mood and a beauty of sound. And the recording is so clear. As I said, you can hear more than you actually need to with the movement of the fingers on the strings and bowing things. But it's not distracting in any way.
I rather like that, though. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of...
It's not that it's... sometimes
you
that's
kind of feel like you're right there.
Of being, too closely mic'd or something. But that's nothing in this album like that. The room noise is appropriate for capturing the space and getting the right natural reverberation of the instruments. Everything is balanced well. It's just super clear, and all the registers are balanced out well. So, almost perfect in terms of the sound quality from, my listening.
Yeah, the thing that made this appealing, the French style, which is really very timbre-oriented, and the Italian style, which is more like rhythm-oriented, or like a kind of like a bounce or sprung rhythm-oriented, are both very appealing. And to hear them kind of like sort of put together here is just
it's really a nice meld.
Yeah, it's a nice meld, and it really kind of kept me listening and kept my ear interested as well. The album is about an hour long, and it's I usually like to listen to Baroque music in the morning because it's just it's a good way to start the day. It's usually very positive, and this is a little slower than your ordinary Baroque because of the darkness that the Viola da Gamba communicates. So I don't know. I think this would be a great evening listen as well, or late evening, you're winding down the day, kind of.
Yeah, or the morning that's rainy and you're not motivated to do much but listen to music.
Yeah, it's slow. It's not gonna like make your heart race or anything like that. It's just fantastic. I like this record a lot. Yeah, highly recommended. Forqueray, Unchained on the Arcana label, André Lislevand and company.
Makes you want to get a gamba.
I don't know about that.
We've got enough instruments around this place here. I can't.
It kind of made me want to see that movie again, Tous les matins du monde, and which, if you haven't seen it, by the way, I recommend that everybody see that movie. It's good. It'll kind of give you a little bit of information about Marin Marais, who in fact really did kind of hide under his teacher Saint-Colombe's teaching studio to as he does in the movie, to learn his secrets. Because Saint-Colombe won't play in public. He's kind of like he's dedicated to music. He's one of those guys. Whereas Mary wants to, and did, play at court for the king. All right. Out of the Baroque, that fascinating period. And we go to... This is, again, we're going back into, like, I guess, Proust's time here, the Belle Époque, the fin de siècle, as they say. This is another recording by Adam Walker, British. Everybody on this recording is British, by the way. French.
How dare they play French music?
Although, yeah. well, we'll get to that soon. Except for James Baillieu, who's South African, actually, but he's British as well. I guess he kind of counts as South African British.
Like a French name, though. Yeah.
He's got a French name, yeah. But French Works for Flute by Adam Walker. Now, you may, if the name Adam Walker rings a bell, we talked about him just last week because he released an album with the Orsini Ensemble, an ensemble that he founded along with other members, called Belle Époque, and we thought that was a delightful recording, kind of light French timbre-oriented, tunes. Like they were pretty light. And I was thinking, I generally like to pair recordings, if it's the same artist, and I should have done that with this, I guess. But thinking about it now, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because this album, which features Adam Walker and James Baillieu on piano, Adam Walker on flute, James Baillieu on piano, and Timothy how do you say this guy's name? Rideau, I think.
Rideau, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Rideau, yeah.
On viola.
On viola, just only on one piece, though, yeah. It's a very different animal. This is not really light music at all. In fact, it's pretty dark, right, and heavy. One of the interesting things about this, the featured composers are Camille Saint-Saëns, who's, remember, let's mention his anniversary of his death every chance we get when we talk about him, because that'll be over next year. Cesar Franck, and Charles-Marie Widor, which is kind of an interesting inclusion here, as is Maurice Durflay.
There's some interesting choices of composers here. When I looked up their history, they're a bit obscure, and that makes it quite interesting, yeah. They
all, except for Saint-Saëns, have one... although Saint-Saëns, I'm not sure about... Yeah, maybe. They all have something in common. They're all primarily... Well, not primarily, but they're all organists.
Organists, yeah.
This is really interesting. Franck was very famous as a great organist. Charles-Marie Widor, of course.
Widor is,
his most famous piece is the symphony. Yeah, no, I think he was...
Cathedral Notre Dame organist, yeah.
Was he? Yes. I think he was at, I don't know, what's the... Oh, God, I can't remember the name now. It was something... I think it was something else. I think it was like one of the other big Paris churches, but I'll figure that out later.
Could be,
yeah. Yeah, I got to look that up. But, his famous fifth... he called it a symphony. It's an organ symphony. Symphony number 5. The last movement of that piece is one of those kind of perpetual motion type things where when you start playing it, everybody in the room gathers around the organ to watch. It just kind of hypnotizes people. It's quite a...
And the last piece is kind of...
Maurice Durflay.
Durflay. Apparently, he was unknown in his lifetime pretty much. And this piece, I mean, the instrumentation, piano, viola, and flute, there's not a lot scored for that. There's some unique things about this too, but once we get to that, we can talk about that.
There's the famous Debussy, work for flute, viola. No, that's flute, viola, and harp. I'm sorry, not piano. Yeah. Boy, okay, which is pretty magical itself. Yeah, so these are all organ composers. Now, organ composers tend to play in church, which means they play religious music, and there's a kind of heaviness to this music that I feel is... It's actually not unusual for French music, but we tend to associate French music with these kind of like pastels or this lightness,
light and fluffy, yeah,
and fluffy. But that's not the case here. There are really dark hues here. This is more. I had a good line about this. I can't remember what it is now. Oh well.
But I thought, right from the gate on the first one, Saint-Saëns, there's also a small orchestra version of this piece, the same piece.
Yeah, the Romance. There's the Saint-Saëns, right? Yeah.
But here you can see right away what I noticed after we listened to Walker last week. So I was kind of used to his sound, but he shows you here that he can turn sort of on a dime to change his tone. So depending on whatever is appropriate for the phrase, he can change from a very light to a dark tone almost instantaneously. And this piece has a lot of challenging flute parts, but in the runs and the trills, he shows really great technique and control technically, but also over the tone of the flute, which kind of impressed me right from the beginning piece here.
Yeah, and this the album starts lightly enough with this Saint-Saëns Romance, and then we get into really the major work on the disc is the famous Cesar Franck violin sonata, but in this case played by flute and piano, transcribed for flute and piano. And this was really something to hear, I have to say.
I liked it. Yeah, I mean, I know this well enough on the violin, so I mean, I know what it sounds like. I know what's coming next. And so I was, listening intently, and I was especially listening for any parts I thought, that might have some sort of harmonics on the violin that would not be possible on the flute, and I might be missing something. But I didn't really notice anything like that. I found it was really enjoyable because it's familiar to me, but yet while I'm listening to it on another instrument, it's quite fresh. And I liked it.
Yeah, this is boy, I have a lot to say about this. The flute and the violin play more or less in the same range, so there was no transposition really, I don't believe, that needed to be done here. But the timbre of the instruments is very different. The violin, world. Yeah, it's hearing it on the flute really just completely changes the feel of this piece. The violin, this is a very passionate work of music, and the violin does passion extremely well. You can really just attack the strings and really
is quite different. Yeah,
and the flute. It's hard to convey passion on the flute. Something else is conveyed, a kind of sensuality, let's say. It's a wind instrument after all. And not only that, but there's a lot of really difficult virtuosic figuration in this work, both for the violin and the piano. And for the flute, you have to keep in mind, this person has to breathe. He's making the sound with his breath. So it really takes something extra to be able to put a piece like this across on a flute. So it's quite an achievement to hear this. First, keep that in mind when you're listening. Okay, this is so I felt like this wasn't quite idiomatic. The flute isn't really idiomatic for this, but it's still very appealing to listen to.
Yeah.
The timbre takes some of the drama away, but other than that, I found it really enjoyable.
Edge that I often hear that Franck performed with, with the violin can put on that, sort of sharp-edged tone in the tension-building places. It doesn't come out in the flute, especially, Walker's tone is just always so sort of rounded that it's a different impression entirely.
Yeah, he's got this really beautiful sound, and that's not always appropriate for the Franck. Even the violin kind of it's sometimes it gets a little rough at times, but it's always it puts across this kind of deep passion and anger at points. And I was kind of, because I know this work really well, and I was just thinking of some of the contrast, like these outbursts of passion followed by this sort of almost like mournful quality at something cherished and lost. And going from one to the other, you can make that change easily on the violin, I think, but on the flute it doesn't really always register as sharply. I don't want to put it down though. It's a really quite a performance, and you should give it a listen, if only to hear this played on the flute. It's really something. Next we get bookending this work is another Camille Saint-Saëns piece. Saint-Saëns and Franck did not like each other, by the way. At least Saint-Saëns didn't like Franck. Franck liked everybody, I think. He just got picked on.
Saint-Saëns, but by Georges Borel, who was a flautist who became the principal flautist of the New York Symphony, and adapted this. I believe he made this special arrangement for the flute.
Yeah. Now, this work, by the way, Ascanio Air de Ballet d'Ascanio. Now, Ascanio is not a ballet, it's an opera by Saint-Saëns. But French operas at the time had to have a ballet in them because, and this goes back to that joke you made earlier that I said I was going to say something more about. I don't even remember the joke now. I've conveniently forgotten it. But
couldn't have been that funny then.
The reason that there were ballets in the opera was because the men who were patrons of the opera wanted to see a little leg, so they'd have to get their the girls up on stage dancing so they could kind of get a little titillated, shall we say, by the dance number. And a lot of these women were being, or the men were their patrons, let's say. That's in quotation marks. So you had to have these. You had to have, if you listen to like 19th century French operas, they'll often have a ballet sequence in them, and it's not a bad thing really because the music is great. It's kind of nice to hear a little instrumental music, but that's why they were there.
So
not for any artistic reason.
You get a little leg.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in contrast to a big leg.
Yeah.
But I guess that's your own personal preference. But what you also get here is some very nice double tonguing in the andantino movement.
Yes.
Which, this is a technique you can hear in any kind of wind instrument.
Speaking of erotic.
Yeah, but very nicely executed by Walker in the track 7 andantino. Some fine double tonguing, and when I'm double tonguing, I often like to listen to a little leg in my mind, and it helps the articulation. So
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're not a brass or a woodwind player, Mike. So anyway,
yes,
the musicians out there who are listening will understand.
They'll understand. Yeah. Okay. They have this whole thing going on behind my back, I'm sure. Anyway,
or behind
next
your leg.
word. Behind work, yeah. I'm not even gonna build on that because I had to come back and no, you're not gonna hear it now. Anyway, all right. Next comes Charles-Marie Widor, who was the organist at Saint-Sulpice. That's the church. I kind of looked it up while we were doing that, and that is in Paris in the Latin Quarter. Okay, so that's where he was the organist. I always think about that, like these great composers that we know now were you can go to church every week and just hear them improvising on that organ. It must have been amazing. I do like that tradition a lot.
Jamming for God, you can't get
jamming for God. Well, I think that's where great musicians are made. So many. This is the case in America too. Like a lot of the great American singers, especially Black American singers, came from the church.
Oh yeah.
You're singing for God. You're I don't know. It just pulls something out of you, and I think that has to continue. I don't think you learn to sing like that at a conservatory or even playing the organ like these guys did. Well, you do, but I mean, you're also, kind of, playing in church as well. There's something about that. It's worth writing a thesis on, I think. Anyway, this is a Suite Opus 34 in C minor for flute and piano, and it was dedicated to the great flautist Paul Taffanel, and that's really what drew Adam Walker to it. 4 movement work. Again, this starts on a really odd sounding chord. It really kind of took me aback for a minute. I was like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
I kind of want to get at the old keyboard and try to figure it out, but I didn't do that. And it goes from there. It's not it's by no means an avant-garde work or even off-putting, but it is kind of like as you would expect from an organist. It is kind of heavy and dark. It's got like this real kind of gravitational pull to it. It's although there's a lot of beautiful figuration in some of the other movements. The first movement, kind of starts out a little bit darker. The scherzo lightens the mood a bit, and then we have a romance, the third movement, and ends with a. This is okay. I'm confusing this with the other one. Okay. With a finale, which is pretty vivace and sort of romantic in mood, shall we say. It's very dramatic. Again, not something I expected from a work for flute and piano, but especially a French work for flute and piano, but pretty interesting. This work, it didn't make a big first impression, but I think there's a lot there. I think it requires repeated listening to really get. All right, it didn't really stick the first time.
It takes on a journey through the movement. So,
yeah. Okay, and then we end with another organist, Maurice Durflay. Now, Durflay, if you know him at all, unless you're like really into him, he's known for his requiem, and his requiem is often paired with Forqueray's very famous requiem on recordings. This is a work called Prélude Recitatif and Variations. I'm saying this wrong. God, Prélude Recitatif et Variations. For flute, viola, and piano. So we get the viola in here. Now, the viola is the kind of middle instrument between the violin and the lower cello, and it's got a darker tone to it, really serving the tone of this entire album really well. It's a really appealing instrument to listen to, and I really feel like it makes this particular piece work. It's just a new color, and I like hearing it. Recently, there have been more solo works for the viola, and I think that's a good thing.
Apparently, Durflay was little known during his own lifetime, but he's gotten more admirers in recent years. And, of course, I don't know nothing about this composer, so I looked up, I was investigating, and then I found comments by musicians on the score for this. So I thought, this is interesting. Rather than looking at, comments on recordings of the piece, flautists and other players who have attempted to perform this. And so those comments were really interesting because this is actually scored in F sharp major. So, which is it's a key with a lot of sharps that are there, and then it has a lot of accidentals. So apparently,
and for wind instruments, this is odd, isn't it? Because they have to,
But apparently, it makes it really hard to read, especially sight read and prepare. So you're going to need a lot of extra time to you don't just pull this out and say let's read through this. It's going to be a little bit of a first hurdle to the piece. That's what I gauged from reading a few performer reviews. But what I liked about this piece is the three movements are really dependent on each other, and it never resolves until the end in terms of sort of where it's going emotionally. It starts with a really dreamy piano intro, and when you go through each movement, the prelude builds tension, but at the end of the prelude, that's just sort of suspended. So each movement of the first and second movements do not sort of come to any sort of temporary climax. They depend on what comes next in the next movement, and you don't get that final sort of resolution of all the things that are introduced until the final movement. So I thought that was kind of interesting about the whole piece. You can't isolate the first two movements because they sort of, and especially the second and third on the recording, they go into each other right away. There's almost no gap there. So it's sort of it could almost be in one movement, really, how it was put together.
Right. These three movement kind of continuous works like this, and they're titled after the their sort of sections. The actual title of the work is the title of the sections, which seems to have been started by Cesar Franck. He did a lot of these types of works, or I shouldn't say a lot, maybe two or three of these works for piano solo. And I think Maurice Durflay is taking this from him. This was nice to hear because I don't know much of Durflay's music. I know the Requiem, and it just doesn't get recorded enough. Very, very enjoyable. And again, I enjoyed hearing the viola on this. So this album is it's an interesting companion to the Belle Epoque album we heard last week, and which Adam Walker also plays on. But this is sort of its kind of more serious brother, let's say, or something like that. It's more brooding, darker side. They kind of make a good contrast to each other. Anyway, it's recommended. The flute playing on this is really excellent. This guy gets a great tone. The program is really interesting and original. Okay, so this isn't music we hear all the time. I will value this CD as it goes into my collection because I have the CD of this and the Belle Epoque. This, by the way, is a CD, and the Belle Epoque album from last week is a Super Audio CD. I kind of wish they had made both of them Super Audio CDs, but they didn't. So both on the same label, Chandos. Speaking of Chandos, yeah.
That's for me a dive into the deeper flute repertoire that I'm not going to get exposed to, just casually. So, enjoyable.
Yeah. I tend to like flute music, flute and harp music, especially if it's written by French composers. I don't know, they do the harp really well too. French composers, they compose for the flute and the harp exceptionally well.
A French dip
very idiomatic
for me.
A French, who'd you call it? Is that what you would call it? A French?
For me, it just idiomatically
a dip into the French musical pool.
Yeah,
maybe
with flute.
I don't know.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Speaking of the Chandos label, we have another recording from them, and this one is a disc of French songs called Chère Nuit by Louise Alder, soprano, and Joseph Middleton, piano. I have to say, Joseph Middleton is getting a lot of work these days. He seems to be appearing on almost every other record that I hear as an accompanist to various singers. Now, the both of them are British, and Louise Alder came to my attention because she appeared in John Eliot Gardner's semi-staged performance of Handel's opera Semele, and she was the lead character Semele, who gets seduced by the Greek god Zeus, and that's what the entire Act 2 is about Semele and Zeus getting it on. And
wow.
The way that's portrayed in Baroque music isn't quite as sexy as you would think, although she does...
Who played Zeus?
In that, I don't remember the guy's name. Okay, I'll have to look it up. Anyway, I can tell you later. Anyway, and she has fantastic stage presence and a really great dramatic soprano voice. She's also featured on a recording that came out last year called Lines Written During a Sleepless Night, which also was suited her exceptionally well. And I was really interested to hear this because I love French songs, and especially early 20th century French songs, Belle Epoque and after, the modernist era. And she actually starts out with one of my favorite sets of French songs ever, Maurice Ravel's Scheherazade. And I have to say, this didn't start well for me. Let me explain. Okay. Now, Scheherazade is a set of 3 works, and it was originally for for soprano and orchestra. Okay. So, and if you know anything about Ravel, he was one of the great orchestrators of all time. And the orchestration in this work is absolutely magical, as are the melodies that the soprano sings. Now, and the great recording of this work is the Regine Crespin recording from the, I guess, the 60s now. It was a long time ago. So it's kind of in, shall we say, old sound. Now, this particular recording is for soprano and piano. So they've taken the magical orchestration away. But the harmony is still there, and Ravel's harmonies are equally magical. But I didn't feel that this particular performance was as sensitive or mysterious as other performances, or as this work needs to be. It's better with an orchestra. Her voice, Louise Alder's voice, it's a beautiful voice, and it's got some nice shades, and it's got this kind of like dark kind of bottom to it. Which is appealing, but doesn't work in this music. I mean, I think the texts are about this fantasy of just the Arabian Nights stories, and it kind of sounds like almost naive, the narration. But she doesn't have a naive voice. This is Louise Alder's voice is someone who knows something about life. Okay, and I don't think that really works in these particular songs, because I think it has to be a more youthful voice than we get here. The pacing of this is off. I thought the first movement, Asie, was played a little too fast, and that the piano playing here, I don't know, it was too far forward, or just lacked in subtlety. Okay, there are lots of magical moments in these scores that just don't register, and I was kind of unhappy about this. If you want to hear this, by the way, again, this is another. Hear this for violin, and I keep saying violin. Hear this for soprano and orchestra. Okay, but if you want to hear like a comparison, I would recommend Marianne Krebassa and Fazıl Say. Marianne Krebassa, the French soprano, and Fazıl Say, Turkish pianist, playing this on Krebassa's album Secrets, which came out about 3 or 4 years ago. They do a really nice performance of this, although I feel like it would have been better if it was with an orchestra. That was kind of more of what I was looking for, and I preferred that to this. Okay, Middleton. Okay, the pianist characterizes well, but he's kind of heavy-handed in this. And this requires a really light touch. Now, that's not to say Middleton is a heavy-handed pianist. He's got that beautiful light touch in other works on this disc, but I just felt like the magic in the score wasn't really realized in this performance. But please, I don't want to pan this album yet. There's good stuff to come, and that comes in the next set of works. You want to say anything, by the way, about Scheherazade?
I'll hold my comments till we get to the end. Yeah.
Okay. Now the Messiaen is actually a lot better. Okay. These are more modern works from the mid 20th century. Trois Mélodies. Okay. The piano is more understated here, and that's as it should be. And hearing Louise Alder sing about why the beauty of nature holds no pleasure suits her dark vocal tone well in the song Pourquoi. Okay, so she's got that questioning tone here, and this works well for her. This is a good song. I think she characterizes this very well. So we're back on track. Okay, in the song La Fiancée, her tone actually lightens a bit too, which was nice to hear. Okay, and I think that I actually wrote a note here that says that I feel like her voice is lighter because maybe the harmony is playing tricks on me, like the way it's actually harmonized. Okay, she does some early Debussy songs. I can tell you what they are actually. Apparition en Sourdine, which is from a Paul Verlaine poem, and La Romance d'Ariel, and I enjoyed these. She's got some fantastic top notes. They're really brilliant and ringing. I liked that a lot. I think that works really well for these early Debussy. And Middleton has the right tone here. Excellent. I like the Debussy here. Okay, now we get to the center part, the central works on the program. And they're both women composers. Pauline Villardo, who's better known as a singer, and she was also a bit of a composer. She wrote a handful of works. There aren't that many, but she was a really magnetic personality in the 19th century and drew a lot of especially men to her. And a lot of men wrote arias for her to sing. And she was sort of revived by Cecilia Bartoli in 1996. And since then, I always have associated her with Cecilia Bartoli, but other sopranos have since been picking up her songs. Now, Villardo, she lived in France, but she was actually of Spanish descent. Her song Hi Luli, which is kind of a sound, okay, and is a bit of an earworm. I was almost getting another earworm there, okay, from this song. It's got this rocking motion that's very memorable in the chorus, after getting rid of that last earworm with the cricket there from a few weeks back in Josquin, okay. So Pauline Villardo's song Hi Ludi, you might want to hear this. It's worth knowing. It's got a rocking motion in the chorus that's really catchy, and these are excellently performed. But I said here, her darkish tone fits well here. I think though, okay, in the variations. In the middle work, okay, L'amour captif, and sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, Le Deux Roses and Havanaise. These are the other two Villardo pieces. In the Havanaise, the very last piece, which is a very Spanish work, it kind of has that sort of bolero, not bolero. What am I thinking of? The Havanaise rhythm. It's Havanaise. She could have been a lot flirtier and more playful in this. I feel like she couldn't really just let go, okay? They would have been great. But again, the singing is great, okay? The characterization is a little, again, heavy. Okay, Cecila Chaminade is the other woman composer here, and we've been hearing a lot of her music in the last few years. It seems that performers have picked up on her music a lot, and it's quite good. I've before all of this started happening, I had only known like a big chamber work by her. So I think it was a quintet or a trio that I really liked, and so I'm kind of glad to be hearing more of her music. I've never heard any of her songs until now, and they are very nice. In fact, in these, Louise Alder is really good in these. She's more playful in the bouncing rhythm of L'Amour Captif. But I was thinking, do you remember a few weeks ago, that's maybe more than a month ago, we talked about Jody DeVoe, who recorded an Offenbach recording like last year and then did English songs this year. She's got this really high voice and this really kind of great tone for this kind of music, and I kept thinking, boy, I'd like to hear her sing this. I bet she'd really make it, flirtatious in a really appealing way. Okay, I'd like to hear Jody DeVoe sing Chaminade and Pauline Villardo. I think that'd be fantastic. Again, okay, so I think Louise Alder here is a bit, she's very good again, but she's a bit, a little heavy. Okay, next, rounding up the program, the sprint toward the end. Alfred Bachelet's Chère Nuit. This is the title track. Is deeply romantic, a good fit for Alder's, light but a little bottom heavy voice. Okay, this really is a good track to have as the title track. I think it suits her exceptionally well, and she should really make this part of her repertoire, her permanent repertoire. Okay, then we come to Francis Poulenc, Chemin d'amour, very famous popular song of the era. Louise Alder has a good pop sensibility, I think. She captured the period style well. I think she's probably listened to her Edith Piaf and things like that. Okay, this fits comfortably. It's not terribly French. It doesn't have that French sort of she doesn't have that French quality really in her voice for this. But the thing is, the song itself is so idiomatically French that you almost can't not fall into sounding like that. Okay, Poulenc's three metamorphoses are more arty, and they sound good here. I like them a lot. Next, we come to one of my favorite French composers, Erik Satie, because he's a bit of a goofball, all right? And boy, does he writes in a pop vein here. He liked the dance hall a lot, and these are two songs that suit the dance hall well, especially in their erotically charged lyrics, shall we say. He didn't write the lyrics. He kind of took them from somewhere else. Okay, the first piece is La Diva de l'Empire. The Empire is probably a nightclub or a dance hall, and this is the La Diva would be the main the woman who's the main attraction, and the song is about how she entertains the audience. It's playful, and Louise Alder captures this quality really well, even with the darker tinges of her voice. I mean, this works really well. There's kind of an almost whisper when she sings the words très très excitant, like she's kind of like doesn't want to, let go. I think it was effective. Then comes the famous Je te veux. This is like, people know this mostly as a piano piece, but here we have the highly sexually charged words where the lover is telling his this woman to be his, and they'll go and lay down somewhere, shall we say. Very naughty lyrics. This is fairly effective, but this piece was really strange. As the narrative continued, as this man singing the song, or I guess it could be a woman too, and singing to a man or to another woman in this case. The tempo, they did like their interpretation, they slowed down the tempo as the song went on, and I didn't really like that. I kind of wish it could have stayed at the normal waltz rhythm. Well, it's always in a waltz rhythm, but it just slows down. I feel like it loses momentum, sort of like a bike falling over. I didn't like that quality about it. Okay. She as her excitement mounts, I think she likes to portray that with a more hushed voice, but this got kind of it drew attention to the with the tempo slowing and the voice growing more and more hushed. I was kind of like, this is just too much. So it's an interesting interpretation, I guess. Interesting would be the nice way to say it. It wasn't bad. I mean, I just would have rather heard it a little straighter. Okay, the last song, lacks. It's kind of a bad song to go out on. It lacks the lightness that the texture demands. Alder's voice, it's a great voice. It's a very good dramatic voice. It doesn't have much sunshine in it, and I feel like this song needed some sunshine. Okay, well, so Alder's voice is made for drama. I have no problem with this singer at all. She's absolutely fantastic, and she was great in Handel, but I just didn't think this program suited her very well. Also, in the flirtier numbers, I feel like the singer, Louise Alder, she needs to let go a bit. Okay, just let it all hang out. And anyway, that's what I thought. So I thought this was, give it a listen. It's worth a listen. I think I'm going to look elsewhere for like a lot of these performances of a lot of these songs. So that's what I've got. What do you think, Russ? Are you there?
Yeah, this was work for me. Bridging from last week to this week with sort of the French, conception of timbre as the center, and listening for the variations in instrumental music.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of soprano voice. I was completely lost for finding tonal beauty in this recording, because her voice just completely overpowers the music for me in most of the numbers. And so it's just too much compared to listening to instrumental music from my listening point. And again, that's just my reference, because I'm not a big fan of listening to solo, especially soprano voice. The numbers that I enjoyed more, that I thought showed more restraint, and I could get some subtleties in the voice. The Messiaen, the first one, is it?
The Messiaen, right? The
Messiaen de Pourquoi?
Pourquoi? Yeah, she was actually exceptionally good in that one.
I liked that one a lot. In Debussy, the La Romance de Daria.
Yeah, Ariel. Yeah,
that one I could find some things I liked, and then in the I enjoyed of all, like as a set, the Poulenc. The
Chemin de l'Amour. The Metamorphosis. You like those, huh?
And the Metamorphosis. Both of those, I could find some, subtleties. And then the Satie, I like that one. But those honestly.
Which one? Both of them, or?
Yeah, and the Je te veux.
Yeah.
The second to last on the album, I like that better than the previous track. So those are the ones I thought like I could get into her voice and the contrasts in it. But most of the other ones, I just, the piano was there. The piano playing is fine. But the voice, I just thought is, for me, not really, I couldn't delve into sort of more subtleties of contrast in her voice, because she was just focused on, reaching that sort of, soprano climax in the pieces, and I couldn't pick up on subtleties so much. So this one was not for me in the French realm so much. Yeah,
I sort of thought like the Lisa Davidson album that we reviewed a few weeks ago. That's a spectacularly great voice, but I felt like the repertoire wasn't really a match to it, and I think that's the case here. I think this is an excellent voice, but again, this is I'm willing to bet that she sang this repertoire because she probably loves it. I mean, a lot of us do. I certainly do. But it's not really idiomatic. Incidentally, for you, though, if you don't like the soprano voice, I still think that you would be seduced by a soprano and orchestra, a well-sung soprano and orchestra version of Scheherazade by Maurice Ravel, because it's absolute magic. It's just really.
I submit my my wooden, hardened heart to be seduced by such voice.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll have to get one.
Give me
send
that
one your way one
Let's
day.
See if it can melt.
It would have to be Regine Crespin, but it's very old. It's an old recording. Yeah, we'll have to see.
If it can
it's a great performance, though.
Melt this hardened heart.
Oh, that absolutely would, because Ravel makes some orchestral magic in that work. Yeah, there's one exceptionally magical bit where he suddenly shifts the scene from sort of the Arabian countries to China, and then she says, "I would like to see China," and it's like this orchestral sleight of hand where this kind of the music suddenly changes to this sort of sort of one of those angular kind of Chinese like folk song melodies. It's just fantastic the way it just kind of comes out of nothing. That one moment really just always gets me every time. But there are a lot of things like that in these works, and you didn't really hear them on this recording. I felt it just didn't come across. All right.
Yeah, well, I remain open-minded to have my heart melted.
Okay, we will do that in the future. Hopefully with a newer singer.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. Last week I was persuaded by the dulcet baritone voice.
He was good.
That was good. So
Ludovic Tézier, we liked him.
He can sing for me all day.
Yeah.
Maybe I need an alto. I don't know. Maybe I just have this. Maybe there's something wrong with my ears for the soprano range or something. I don't know.
Or a mezzo. You might like a mezzo. Like Cecilia Bartoli.
That could work too.
Yeah, altos are kind of interesting because they have these really darker tones to their voice.
Yeah,
like they're almost getting into the men's kind of vocal range, and it's in a woman's voice. It sounds there's a kind of odd sort of eeriness to it. Really appealing. Mahler said that a lot. The alto voice kind of is used in Mahler's music a lot. Okay, and there we go for our French classical. It's all French for you this week.
Well,
and on we go.
Knowing that you were going to French us on this. Yeah. So I thought, I've been looking over the new jazz releases for a while, and wouldn't you know, there are quite a few French things in there, and there were a couple that, sort of gained my interest, but I hadn't picked them right at the time. But then I said, okay, if we're going to do French, let's look at some French jazz too. And but on further examination, I couldn't pick up absolutely 3 that I wanted to pick. So you're going to get 2 out of 3. So I'm going to break the French theme just to pick one other one, but you're going to get 2 anyway. And we're going to start out with a French saxophonist who's not so well known outside of France, but he may well become known because of this project, and that is Pierrick Pédron, who I understand is quite well known inside of France, and his new album called 50/50, the New York Sessions. This is on Gazebo label, and the title has several connotations in meaning. Apparently he turned 50 years old. I guess he'll be 51 now, but at the time of the recording he was 50, so that's one meaning. Us. Yeah, same age range.
See, if he was a rock musician, he'd already be retired.
He'd be retired. Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
He joined the Ringo Starr Band. He could have another 30 years.
Yeah.
But the other meaning is that this is the first installment in a 2-part project. This project is acoustic and recorded with some top-listed American players. And the second part of the project will be recorded in France with French musicians in an electric setting. I'm not sure. I'm not so familiar with his previous recordings, what he's done, but he's going to do that with maybe a more electronic instrumentation or something.
I'd be interested to hear what that sounds like after hearing this, actually.
And so I'm not so familiar with his previous work. And then when I looked at the track listing, I noticed something very curious about the tracks. And he is a Frenchman and playing American jazz, but we've got some titles that are very evocative of Japanese things. So
I noticed, well, of course, being that this is where we live, I noticed that myself. He's got this. The French really do have this real love of Japan, and they really they do a deep dive too, and it seems like he may be one of them. He kind of, there are a lot of Japanese themed works on this. So
digging a little bit deeper, that apparently he has been regularly performing and recording in Japan, and he is invited by the pianist Yutaka Shiina, and who has played a lot with Elvin Jones and Jazz Machine. So I guess that's his connection. So it's kind of interesting. The group that he has here on the 50/50 sessions is pianist Sullivan Fortner, who I knew formerly as pianist in the Roy Hargrove Band, bassist Larry Grenadier, and drummer Marcus Gilmore. And so the second release of the 50/50 will be titled Paris Sessions, and is supposed to come out in the fall of this year. So we'll see what that's going to be like. So what we've got here is 9 originals. It's all originals, but 4 were composed in collaboration with Laurent Corthalia. And I'm not familiar with him, but apparently a co-composer on these. So, not having any preconceived notions, I jumped right into this with Pedron. And the first track is called Bullet T, and you're off to the races right away with some really fast-swinging post-bop. Some of the reviews I've said neo-bop. I'm not sure what neo-bop means, but in the modern post-bop idiom, this fits right in. What do you get here?
Neo-bop, I guess, would be a kind of bop that they just kind of came up with right there. I
guess.
Just give it a name.
There's a longer tradition than that. There's some curiosities in the way they do this to me, but so from the start, you're going to get in with this tune. You're really off on a fast pace. When you get a sax and piano doubling on this very angular melody and drum fills between the phrases, starts out with a piano solo with a lot of tension building, dissonance. And what's interesting here, which comes up a lot through the tunes on this album, when the sax comes in for a solo, the piano completely drops out. So Pedron doesn't seem to want or need a lot of harmonic sort of input behind his soloing. And then you'll get a taste right from the first tune of his sound. He has a rather edgy sound. He has really good technique. He can play a lot of fast lines, but he also likes to do some tonal work. So he's got some screeches outside playing, and so he likes to go outside of the regular chord change conventions. The piano comes back in and brings it back a little bit mellow with the progressions, and there's some a little bit of drum work underneath that, and the sax comes back with the theme. And what you'll notice once you start listening to this right from the first track is the recording technique on this album is a little bit unusual for modern recordings. It sort of goes back to when stereo was first invented. The piano is panned hard left. It's all in the left channel. You won't hear any from...
That always drives me crazy. It kind of feels like it's stuffed into a closet.
Exactly. and the drums are all on the right. So this is sort of like early stereo recordings. I don't know what to say about it really, other than, the opposite can be very bad too. Like if your drummer is in the middle of the stage and his cymbals, obviously occupy a certain space that should be represented, but when they're panned excessively so that when you listen to the drums seem to occupy, like a 10-meter radius of, you would have a drummer with like unnaturally long arms. That's sort of unrealistic too. Right here is sort of...
Yeah, it always kind of drives me crazy too when they record pianos like that, where somebody will play a scale from like the low bass all the way into the high end of the piano,
so you've got a 20-foot
and you'll hear
keyboard.
it go from speaker to speaker like it's a Pink Floyd album. That's always really
this
odd.
is the opposite. So this is sort of like 1956 when piano or stereo was first figured out, and the instruments are really panned. So I'm not really sure why that happened, but that's what you've got here. This second tune is called "Be Ready." So it's sort of mediocre.
I want to say something more about that. The timbre, the first piece, "Bullet T," right?
Yeah.
The title is interesting. This might even be a reference to the bullet train in Japan as well.
It possibly could be.
Yeah, but I liked it had these really high speed solos that kind of the thing I noticed about every solo, they all stopped like on a dime, like you thought they were just going to keep going, and then all of a sudden like they would just the soloist would just jam on the brakes and the next guy would take over. And I think that's part of the theme of this piece. I was kind of curious about that. I thought they had figured out that they were going to end their solos that way.
Could it be like sort of evocative of his experience riding on the bullet train here or something?
Yeah, I'm guessing that. I don't really know that that's true, but
not sure. Okay. I hadn't thought of that myself, but so anyway, the next track is Be Ready. It's a medium tempo tune. This one, sometimes the melody is played in unison with piano and sax, and then sometimes the sax takes it alone. We start with a piano solo, sax. Again, the piano largely drops out under the sax solo and then comes back, for some harmonic support. Pedron mixes a lot of fast phrases with some pitch bending. He likes to work sort of microtonal things. He's got some trills, and then he can work with tonal changes to build tension. And that keeps up pretty much to the end of the tune. Keeps the intensity on. Then we get into the first, unless, as I missed it, the bullet T would be bullet train. Number 3, Sakura, in Japanese meaning cherry blossoms. Right. This has a really soft, sparse, long piano opening in a free time. And then after a pause, Pedron comes in with the ballad melody. Here you get introduced to a more tender side of his playing, but not too tender. He has a sort of Cannonball Adderley type of bite and articulation, but the tone is more sort of peppery, as in art peppery, with an edge to it. So it's an interesting sort of approach that he takes to this ballad. We get a nice relaxed bass solo, and then Pedron comes back in with the melody and some more improvisations. This is a nice ballad treatment. I assume he's trying to evoke the cherry blossoms in Japan, and I enjoyed this one. Number 4 is a track called Boom, and this is an up-tempo swing. It's kind of all of his original compositions, I'll get to this at the end, but they're rather kind of disjointed, so that the melody of the tune is disjointed, syncopated melody that's accented by the piano. Piano takes the first solo. The sax returns with the melody and then into a solo. There's a little bouncy bass solo, and then the theme comes back to the end. The next track starts out a little differently. Number 5, Trevise. It's got like a music box kind of piano opening. That sort of chimey quality when you open a wound up box.
That struck me right away. I thought of the African thumb piano. I think it's called the Mabira. It kind of gave me that, because the rhythms are a little off too, the way they play. Like there are these two separate rhythms at the same time. Very
different. It's got some nice high bass tones and cymbals in here. And then after that intro, it changes. The sax comes in on a slow swing that sets in on the ballad. In here, when the sax comes in, there's a lot of interesting piano happening and through the tune, and then it sort of closes out with that chimey thing again, and then it's sort of like the music blocks just like closes up and the tune is over. This is an interesting arrangement.
I enjoyed this. This is one of the tunes I enjoyed most on the album. I was kind of curious about the title, Trevise. I figured it had some kind of... Now, I'm not sure what it means. There is an area in the Veneto region of Italy called Treviso, but the word Trevise in French means like radicchio lettuce, and I'm kind of wondering if that's what they mean here. I don't really know what the meaning of this word is in this case. I'm not sure. Is it a place, or does it mean radicchio? What does it mean? I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting... Or is it some slang word? I don't know. Arrangement to it. Just kind of cool approach that's sandwiched the main part of the tune. Then we've got 6... Yeah, I've also got a meaning. I just want to say I've also got a meaning here. It says a Trevise is an intelligent person who thinks outside the box, and that could really work if that's really true. I've never heard of this word before, but I used this way. But that just came up in the Urban Dictionary. I can't comment on that too much.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of obscure, but
Yeah, maybe we'll ask him one day.
Write to us. Let us know.
Yeah, write to us and let us know if anybody wants to tell me.
I doubt he will, because the next tune is called Unknown 2. So maybe Trevis is Unknown 1.
Yeah.
But this one is a little more standard. We got a fast swing with a walking bass. The melody phrases, there's a lot of gaps in here, so you sort of leaves you wondering with a sense of mystery. And also the structure of the solo is the solos. The piano and sax alternate a few solos, and then they have some interviews together. It's kind of a loose construction. And when we move on from that, the next part with Fortner on piano, it's a little bit kind of complex harmonic lines that come in here, and then we get back to the melody. Then again, things go free, and there's kind of a descending pattern that's repeated at the end into some really impressionistic piano chords. So I guess that's what the unknown part is. I'm not sure. Track 7, Back to Japan. Actually, until the end, we're going to be Japanese influenced here.
Yeah.
We've got origami, the Japanese paper folding thing. This is starts out with a rubato opening over kind of ascending piano runs, and then an even beat ballad forms out of that. You get a melody that's kind of almost there, but not quite. You won't remember it. And some loose and dark harmonies come over like a freed up drum and bass backing. And finally,
I actually wrote that this was very angular and abstract.
Yeah, as most of
it's funny that we're on the same page with that one. Okay.
At the end, things congeal like kind of a boiled broth to the end, back with the melody. This is kind of interesting one. Maybe he imagined things taking shape from a sheet of unconstructed paper. Then number 8, we've got Mr. Takagi, a Japanese surname. This is a kind of playful, chasing up-tempo melody. The bass keeps steady, but the drums kind of keep things loose. The piano here sounds more conventional than on a lot of other tracks. It's kind of more in the regular post-bop vein. We get a nice little bass spot, and Pedron really whips up on his solo with some speedy lines and more bends. And then the album closes out with track 9, Mizue, which could be a woman's name, I suppose.
Yeah.
We've got sax and bass starting out this ballad. And here, Pedron plays it really kind of melancholy and sparsely. The piano and bass sneak in, and it sort of settles into a slow 6/8 tempo, but there's a pulse, a nice restrained sax solo, a bass solo with some delicate cymbals and piano chords behind it. The sax comes back with more intensity, and it sounds like he's keeps searching for something right up till the end. Maybe he's looking for Mizue wherever she is, and that closes out the album.
Yeah. So I just want to mention, Mizue seems a bit it's like a pensive type, but Mr. Takagi, I was listening to this piece thinking of the title, and the music kind of makes this Mr. Takagi seem uncharacteristically aloof for a Japanese person. I mean, I feel like they're always kind of locked in, most of the Japanese people that I see, but he seems like a bit of a character, given the way the music represents him.
Yeah, I don't know who he is, but
sounds like someone I'd like to meet, though.
Could be, yeah. So, in summation, I liked Pedron's sax playing a lot. I can, see his influences and understand his individual character pretty well. The other players are really great, and they gel together pretty well on here. There's a lot of looseness here, but it doesn't get out of hand. I guess my main thing, not knowing his playing and seeing what he's done, and he's in his sort of midlife here, and I assume in France he's amassed a catalog and established playing. But his own writing of tunes, to me, they're all quite oblique. And the melodies are very angular and things. So I couldn't latch on to anything in particular. So for me, like an album like this, played with American musicians, if there was one standard or an original by another like sax mentor, like, if he had like a Gary Bartz tune or something, at least sort of one inlet from something familiar, it may be a help to the jazz listener. Not that anything here I thought was too far out there or inappropriate, but his own writing to me is a bit angular, and so I'm looking for that branch to hang on to, going from tune to tune. It's not a bad thing, but just sort of a general comment on the compositions.
It kept me interested throughout, though. Some of the textures, I guess you could call them, that he creates, especially in that song Trevis, they're really kind of intriguing and beautiful. There's a nice sort of thing to it. But yeah, I thought this was pretty abstract. It's kind of hard to remember the individual works. I had to take like kind of extensive notes so that I'd have something to hold on to when we were talking. I wouldn't have remembered them otherwise. But that's not an insult. It's just kind of there's a kind of palimpsest quality to these compositions.
And I take it that's part of his personality is towards the free sense, because the first few solos, as I said, the piano drops out, and then it's sax over bass and drums.
I wonder if he sees that actually as because he has so many Japanese titles. I bet that's part of what he thinks of as the Japanese aesthetic, the constantly changing kind of quality of, say, like the Japanese garden through the seasons, and
it could be.
As you turn, things like that, or the cherry blossoms in spring, things like that. These things sort of appear and then they're gone.
Once this Corona debacle is over, he'll be a name that I'll be looking for if he comes to Japan.
We'll go check him out.
I'd like to see him. His tone is attractive. He's got the intensity. The angst and burn is in his playing. He does some interesting things, but he's got the technique to play. A lot of impressive runs and things too. So he seems to have the whole package. Let's see what the French side with the electronic thing. I have a feeling I'm not going to like that as much as this one, but
well, we'll see.
We'll see. And so
right.
That brings us to number 2 in the jazz this week, also French. And to me, this is the big discovery of this week.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Not to mention he does quite a few covers on this album as well that were pretty intriguing.
But, this is the young up-and-coming French pianist Simone Chivallon. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, as I said, I've already got immunity.
Chivallon, I would guess. Chivallon, yeah.
Whatever. I won't say Simon
Chivallon. Chivallon.
But he's a young fellow and 29 years old, and he's got an album, Light Blue, but that title is not new and young, as we'll see. He is entrenched into some traditions, and they're quite varied, but he's not.
And they're also very appealing.
Yes. So he's 29. This is his second recording, but his first trio recording. I guess he had a 4 or 5 piece group on his first outing. Here he is with bassist Nicolas Moreau, who sounds quite French, but drummer Antoine Pagonati. That sounds a bit mixed to me. French, Italian, I don't know.
It happens all the time these days.
Either. Happens all the time. Anyway, he's very much fitted to this trio format, and this is a splendid album. It's a nice, unlike the Pedron recording, which is all originals, here we've got a mix of some interesting material to work with and understand his personality. We're going to start out with a few originals. The first tune is called Joy, And this starts with a repeating, catchy rhythmic riff, and he embellishes that as he goes on, and he carries the riff through his solo, and as he reworks pieces of it, which is very nice. He's in his technique. You'll also get a feel that his left hand technique is quite developed and supporting of his right hand equally, and his playing is very melodic through the whole album. He inserts some extended left hand chords at points, and then the tune returns at the end to the sort of repeating riff, and there's some nice drum soloing over that too, and so it's a nice original tune to start things out.
What did you think the influence was on this album, on this song?
It's hard to say.
I was thinking Vince Guaraldi.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and that comes up a little bit later too. Mm-hmm. But I felt there's a lot of Vince Guaraldi in his playing, and when he comes to the final tune on the album, which is a Billy Strayhorn tune, an Ellington song, but that was famously recorded by Vince Guaraldi, and the way that he, especially in his rhythms, like people are familiar with the Charlie Brown tunes and that soundtrack, but also Vince Guaraldi's other works. There's just something in that concept that he seems to have incorporated, whether consciously or unconsciously.
Right. It doesn't actually sound like Vince Guaraldi, but there's something about the phrasing and the whole harmony the jumpiness of it too. There's a brightness sort of rhythmic, to the rhythm,
spring to it. That I thought there. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah. Now, number 2. This is another original tune, but this reveals a bit of his personality that comes up again too. And this tune is a tune called Echoes. And this tune is in 7/4 time. You won't get to it unless you start counting it out. But what's really cool about it is there's an extra beat at the end of the phrase occasionally, where there's a slight pause where it picks up to the new refrain, and so that extra beat helps it resolve. So it's a tricky time signature, but he keeps this engaging theme with a nice melody going through it, and so I can see that he has sort of an appeal to rhythmic sort of complications and sort of problems to be solved in his tunes and improvising. So I was intrigued by that. Then, surprise. Number 3, we get a French tune by Forqueray.
Yeah. I actually had to listen to this twice to make sure that it was the Forqueray tune, because it's not very obvious. It's not really on the surface. You have to know the melody.
Shall I butcher the pronunciation, or will you do so?
Après un rêve. Après un rêve.
Yeah. And this one...
After a dream.
Is kind of suave because he starts it out with the bass. So the theme comes in on the bass, and then passes it over to the piano. And then for a young fellow here, as we'll see later too, but Chivallon, he pays respect to this melody. He treats it very nicely on its own. And then he starts to swing it, and he finds some bluesy bits within it. But he's going to give it to you, as you will recognize it first, and before he dismantles it. But he doesn't dismantle anything on this album too much. His solo then is very melodic with a lot of rhythmic variation. He's really good at pulling out some different rhythms and things. And then when the tune turns around, the cadence, the bass is very sort of emphatic every time on that. So each time the tune hits the cadence to come back to the beginning of the verse, it's sort of emphasized with the bass. And we get a nice delicate ending. So it's a nice arrangement, being both respectful to the classical composition, but also finding some fun in that. So I enjoyed it. The next tune... The Wanch, another original by him. This one has a very non-jazzy, even rock beat. And start to listen to this melody, and the first thing I thought of, Beatles. It's very.
Speaking of which, we'll get to that later.
Yes, it's a very Beatlesque melody that turns a bit bluesy into his solo and hints at things to come on this album.
Yeah, indeed it does.
A lot of rhythmic variety in this solo. Well, again, staying very melodic. And then moving on to number 5, Middle Avenue, another original tune. This starts with a very cool bass line intro, and then if you are into counting, you'll realize this tune is in 5/4. So a very difficult time signature to make sound natural, but indeed he does. And he shows us a new side of his playing here in his solo. Rather than being, it's always melodic, but this is very intervallic solo. If you listen, you'll see he's emphasizing very different intervals that he inserts into that, while at the same time doing some really nice left hand playing accompanying himself. So yeah, technically really cool, stylistically also really cool. I was impressed by this number.
Okay. And then I just want going back to Après un rêve. I thought that worked really well as a jazz tune. I was really pretty surprised by that. Yeah.
You know, he pulls it out. I haven't heard, you know, this kind of thing so much since like Ike Quebec pulled out, you know, some tunes, you know, and made them really jazzy without anybody really noticing it.
That's a name. I think you introduced me to his playing way back in the day. I don't remember. Yeah. It was a long time ago.
We'll have to do an oldies but goodies refresh kind of thing sometime. But Ike Quebec.
Just something unknown oldies maybe. You know,
could be. Yeah. But pulling out some classic things. Anyway, yeah, interesting influence and bringing classical into the jazz here, and then we get the title track, Light Blue, but it's not one of his originals. How interestingly reserved and humble he is to title the album after a Monk composition.
I thought this was Monk because of the harmonization of the melody. I thought right away, this sounds like Monk, and I kind of couldn't identify the tune.
So
all right,
he gives it a really nice Monk lilting treatment in the opening. We get a playful bass solo, and he does the piano solo nice with just enough Monk-like dissonance and angular phrases. But I get the feeling that Chivallon he can't be like non-melodic even if he tries, because that's like his ingrained sense of playing. So even when he plays angular, it still sounds like really melodic. It's like, oh yeah, of course that's what you would play. That kind of inevitability to it. So I thought his playing is always very melodic, but he does channel enough of sort of what's the right word? Monkiness, monkitude.
Monkitude is a good word.
Monkitude, that sounds cool.
Monkishness is kind of interesting because you got that religious quality in there too.
Yeah, monkitude. You'll recognize it. Anyone who knows Monk's playing. So he plays a bit of respect. And then we're gonna get some French sauce tossed in here. We've got a couple tunes. Boy, can I pronounce this one? Can you pronounce it?
Wait, where is this one? Let me see.
Georges Brassens.
This is
Dans l'eau de la claire
fontaine. Yeah, Dans l'eau de la claire fontaine, in the water of the clear fountain.
Yeah. So this is a French famous singer-songwriter who was known to play also very harmonically, compose harmonically interesting popular songs. And so probably unfamiliar to the English-speaking audience, but maybe well known to him in his youth. The piano plays the melody from this song, and we get a nice bass solo. And you can tell, it's a very well-written song. It's got this beautiful harmonic progression, and it's just right. And he doesn't overplay it. It's kind of understated solo. It comes out really nice. And then, more French. Tune 8, La Mer.
Right.
Charles Trenet. And this is
That's a great tune.
A world classic, chanson classic, French composer, lyricist, and singer and showman, Charles Trenet. And we Americans know this tune as Somewhere Beyond the Sea by Bobby Darin. But unfortunately, the English lyrics were unrelated to the original French.
Yeah, sadly.
lyrics.
And I know the original French too, because it's one of those tunes Charles Trenet gets played a lot when you're studying French, because when you do songs, because they're so traditional.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things when I'm happy memories of my French classes is hearing like singers like Charles Trenet.
I mean, any language you sing it in or anything, the melody and harmonies are just great, and then it sort of propels itself when it hits that bridge. It just it goes into a new territory. So you could sing any words to this. You put any lyrics you want. Of course, we don't have any lyrics here, so that doesn't matter. But it gets a new rhythmic treatment. Chivallon, he makes it really rhythmic, and of course the chords are great, so he has a lot of fun over the harmonic structure and finds some new melodic ideas. I remember back some years ago reading like the origin of some of these songs that everyone knew in the English speaking world, like Beyond the Sea and My Way, and these are originally like French songs.
Yeah,
that in a way they're the first like world music that nobody knew about, because they came from somewhere else, and then they just
I guess in the pre-internet age, especially in English speaking cultures, everything had to be English, and I thought that was kind of sad, because I really liked the language and I really wanted to hear all those original tunes. I actually learned the My Way tune when I was in France too, like for the French class.
Because I think like when radio first came out, and looking at the hits like in the 1920s in the US, opera and foreign language Italian and French songs were actually some of the higher ranking popular tunes listened to by people, because you still had that sort of ethnic sense, and but then suddenly everything had to be English.
God forbid Americans become sophisticated.
That'll never happen.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't happen anyway. They heard all these. I remember there was a period in the 1980s in pop music where we were getting a lot of European and really fun, foreign language songs.
Influence, yeah.
I remember 99 Luftballons.
Oh, yeah, Nena.
99 and there was a De Commissar by Falco. Remember that song?
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah. Okay.
God, that's too long ago.
And then it went away.
I don't want to be drawn back to that period. It's too traumatic.
Then everything had to be English again. Oh, I loved the 80s. It was great. I was in college then. It was fantastic. Didn't have any responsibilities yet.
Yeah. Anyway, Simon, sorry for digressing during your your discussion here.
But that's what we do.
Yeah, we do. But you pull it back, and you go very Anglo with your treatment.
Speaking of English,
English something by George Harrison.
Yeah.
And, the
famous Beatles song, Something. Yeah.
Something in the way she moves attracts me like no.
A beautiful song, as the Beatles did it as well. And it just works. It's just such a fantastic song. It just, everything people do with it just seems to work.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Even Sinatra liked this song. And you can tell here, as he plays it fairly straight. There's just a little added color in the harmony, I can tell, in the interesting phrase, but not much. And also, the bass player gives a little hint to McCartney in that the bass takes some of those nice melodic lines like Paul McCartney would. There's some great repeated ascending figures building into the solo, but overall, a respectful treatment. You'll be surprised at how straight he plays it, but I think the reason is he likes what's already in this song.
I want to say about this too. In the introduction, Chivallon plays a melody from another famous song, and I couldn't figure out what that song was. He plays like dun 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 dun. It's something I've heard before, and I couldn't pull it out.
I have to check that out.
It's not the Beatles. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you figure it out. Let me know though, because I'm racking my brains for it. I'm like, this is a famous melody, and I'm like, I couldn't really figure out what he was doing. Was he doing it over the something chords, or was it just something else that was going to lead in? I couldn't figure out what the reference was.
Yeah, it may have
anyway.
Been a couple
if anyone knows, write to us. Like, I'd like to know.
Whiskeys in, but I'll check that out again. Of course, I should say here, that these Beatle tunes have inspired a lot of jazz recordings. Notably, recently, the great guitarist Al Di Meola has done 2 recordings of Beatle tunes. Both of them are nice. I like the acoustic one more, and our, very esteemed pianist Dave Kikoski has made a couple albums of Beatle jazz, and those are great. And
those are great. Yeah, I like those a lot.
Those are really great. And as soon as Dave gets a new album out, it's going to be on here because he's just
going to review
awesome.
Every one of his albums.
Yeah, every one of his albums.
Oh man, I hope he doesn't do like 4 a year or something.
Yeah, come on, Dave, release some new ones. We're going to get you talking on here too. And then after Beatles, what's more natural to go to than Ellington? So here we've got A Flower is a Lovesome Thing by Billy Strayhorn. In the Ellington band, this was sort of a centerpiece for the alto sax player Johnny Hodges. Also, as we alluded to before, the great pianist Vince Guaraldi made a recording of this. It starts with very dense piano chords at the beginning, and then Chivallon plays it with a lot of space, but interestingly, he adds a few of those Ellington-esque runs going up the keyboard, like Ellington would put in a lot of his ballads. It's very nice, and he plays this one with a lot of respect too. And so overall, to me, this recording was a nice surprise. This is a very talented young player, but his playing is accessible to anyone. You could put this on, for someone who's not really a jazz fan, and they're going to like this. His original tunes, his writing is good, and it's melodic, just like his improvising. So this guy has a melodic personality.
Yeah, and it's highly appealing. Not only that, this guy, Simon Chivallon, plays... There's a lot of joy in his playing. You can kind of hear that he really loves playing the piano and these tunes. It just kind of comes out. It's so it'll just... I think it'll pick you up if you hear it. This is definitely going to go into my collection next. I'm glad to finally have a French jazz pianist next to all my Italian jazz musicians in this year's collection. I'm going to definitely pick this one up on a CD.
And if I said, it shouldn't be this way, but if I said someone, oh, he's a melodic player, and then, someone could also, derive a negative implication like, oh, he's simplistic. Not at all. And those interesting time signature pieces that he has on here show that he can take a difficult meter, he can make it sound easy and melodic and include a lot of rhythmic variety. So hats off to him. He's got the whole package here. And this is what I mean by, presenting an album that's a great mix of original compositions that sound great, respectful jazz tradition covers, including Ellington and Monk, and then, going out there on a branch to, reinterpret a classical piece, of course French, but then a Beatles piece too. What more could you ask for in terms of material? It's all there. And then the band as a trio, the drums and bass, they're tight, they support each other. It's his first recording as a trio. Fantastique, wonderful. I want to hear more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, A+ on this one. No
okay,
problem. So
here we are floating in the clouds after this album, and then our last album brings us back to Earth.
Yeah, the new Cool. Okay, let's abandon...
Yeah, that title really appealed to me. I was like, oh, a little Miles Davis reference there.
Yeah,
huh?
That's what I thought too. We're all from the French cloud into Germanic territories.
It turned into a rain cloud.
Yeah, a bit. Well, so anyway.
What I mean, though, is that it's kind of dark. This is kind of a much darker record than the other two.
So this is The New Cool by David Helbock, who is an Austrian-born pianist, and apparently he's active in Germany as a musician. And it's a trio, and his sidemen are both German. We've got Sebastian Studnitsky on trumpet and Arne Janssen on guitar. And the concept for this album, which was the reason why I wanted to listen to it and talk about it, is sort of the new cool, which harkens back to cool jazz of the late 40s and 50s of the U.S., which would mean clear themes, melodies and harmonies with a strong rhythmic grounding, and those qualities from the original cool period, however, using the jazz vocabulary of today. So, what happens with this? Well, it's how would
well, it isn't chilled out the way the old Miles Davis recordings are. It's a very heavy.
Out.
It's a much heavier kind of.
That's right.
Feeling to it. Yeah.
As ladies have often described things to me, it's complicated, but not to me. Here it is. In the
you're obviously listening in on my phone conversations. Then.
Ooh. Is that? Does that account for your lack of intimacy, Michael?
Oh, yeah. That's why. Never mind.
That's a different topic. Anyway,
I was gonna make a joke that I realized wasn't gonna work. So
it's
here we
not
go.
Gonna work. So let's start out with an intimate tune here. The great Benny Golson classic. I remember Clifford, of course, in memoriam of the great Clifford Brown. This is from Post Bop on a tune that's been recorded a number of times, but probably never like this. So what happens on this album is the guitar with effects is left to create a very atmospheric sort of, how can I say, sort of tonal palette of tunes, and the piano alternates, playing sort of stereotypical piano type things, along with covering the bass sort of role in the tunes and going all over, and then the trumpet here, Studnitsky, he has possibly the most airiest trumpet tone of all time. If you can imagine Chet Baker with a few more missing teeth, or Tony Frisella with like a breathing tube, then you're going to get this sound. It's not unattractive at all, but it's like strikingly breathy tone.
It reminded me there was a trumpeter, a Polish trumpeter, Tomasz Stanko, who played like this too, with this really breathy tone. Yeah. He's recently passed away, and this brought me to mind of that, because I remember hearing a recording of his playing a few years back before he passed away.
So we get on this tune. I mean, I've heard this recorded so many times, but it's unusual. It starts out with this spacey, atmospheric guitar tone. The piano hints at the melody before it actually comes in, and you get this sort of movie soundtrack quality. And then finally, Studnitsky enters with the tone, this breathy tone, and then the guitar also altering the phrase. There's a huge reverb on the trumpet. On this whole album, as set here, the tempo flows freely because there's no drums. And on this title track, there's no solos. This is a painting on a canvas of I Remember Clifford. And so you sort of see the soundscape they're aiming at here. It's interesting, something different, taking a classic kind of post-bop tune and then painting it in sort of different colors from modern things.
Yeah, and this really sets the tone for the rest of the album, because it's going to go this way.
It's going to show you what
these are sad people.
Yeah, he could be.
Maybe we're just darker minded, let's say.
Yeah, the next tune has got a dark title, The Pandemic of Ignorance, which may
Talk about setting a tone.
Yes, it probably reflects most of our society. Or certainly no one listening to this program, if you've made it this far.
They could have written this 40 years ago.
Anyway. Yeah, this is Helbock's original. We get lots of synthy sounds, making a wall of sound here. And we get some big syncopated piano chords that become a backdrop for kind of an echoey trumpet solo. Then the third track, kind of an interesting take. We've got some Chopin, the Prelude in E minor, but syncopated. And not only if you think Chopin is syncopated.
And again, a little difficult to identify if you don't know what it is. Right?
If you know this tune, you'll kind of get it, and then once you hear it, what was interesting to me, I started like thinking in my mind, because there's no drums on this album, I'm going like,
you can imagine
and I'm like, okay, this is a bossa beat. If there's a drummer, he's playing bossa nova, but it's not actually there. The trumpet breathes some soft improvised phrases around the pretty melody, and it's very sparse. The guitar is subtle. Interesting Chopin treatment. Followed by number 4 is A Truth, another Helbock original. We get a slightly varied repeating piano riff. It starts out kind of like a rock feel. The trumpet adds another line over it, and then we get some counterpoint on the guitar. Trumpet solo, and then here we start to get some more rock influence. There's a really tasty rock guitar part over a low piano bass. The intensity comes up and it sort of falls back softer with some rispy trumpet before it turns up to the end. But this gets a bit kind of rocky on this tune, pushing it. The next tune, another Helbock song, Hymn for Sophie Scholl. And this starts with a rubato piano opening. The guitar adds some atmosphere, and the trumpet enters here softly. And this is kind of like a lament. There's a kind of velvety quality to it. It's a sad but pretty melody. This is a very restrained piece on the album.
Yeah, a hymn would indicate something religious, I think. Yeah. And this particular piece has some of these really gorgeous chiming chords at the beginning. I really liked his, kind of thought of church bells. So I think Sophie probably, this is probably a memoriam for her or something. I'm guessing just from the whole sound of it.
It's not happy, but it's brooding, and it has some meaning to him probably. Then, track 6, Time After Time. This is, as you thought, Cyndi Lauper and the co-writer of her tune, Bob Hyman. But let me tell you, this is not Girls Having Fun.
Oh, I wrote that this is a particularly bleak version of this song.
Girls Just Want to Cry.
Girl just want to slit. I'm not going to say that. No. Girls just want to slit their wrists. I was going to say it's horrible.
So it starts with some mysterious intervals.
Girls just want to jump off a cliff. I don't know.
Girls just want to end it all. Yes, this starts with some mysterious intervals on the guitar and some minor piano chords, and you'll still have no idea what this is from reading the track
you had
list.
to know the title first, and from the title.
The trumpet enters, and the melody is altered and reharmonized in the beginning of the phrase to a minor, and it won't hit you until the end of the first phrase of what this song is, and then so they completely reworked this. In the middle of the tune, the trumpet blows some real like synthesized chromatic lines, and the piano gets busy with the repeated low notes. And then it's interesting, it sort of morphs into something that's like a fanfare. So this is a complete reworking of this tune. It's very interesting, but as I said, it's not girls having fun.
I'm amazed at the staying power this song has, actually, because I remember it came out in the 80s, and you thought it was a big pop tune, but boy,
I think we had
people really
Miles
took
Davis
to
do
it.
a version of it, and
it gets handed down too. It's still being handed down to younger jazz musicians today. It's amazing that
and what was
that's still
the
around.
Woman, Eva Cassidy. And others, it's a haunting melody. Here, it's very haunting. It may keep you up at night. Then we got another Helbock tune, Solidarity Rock. This starts out with some big repeating bass note, piano chords, guitar theme, trumpet weaves around in the background. We got then a soft contrasting section on trumpet and piano driving the bass. It's kind of a little rocky piece. And then another interesting reworking from the old Cream tune by Jack Bruce, I Feel Free. Again, This is Cream, but not as you know it. Maybe more like cottage cheese or another form of milk.
Well, the song of the song's called "I Feel Free," but whoever's playing this, they don't feel free. Maybe they feel free, but they're not free, and it's kind of
really identifiable. You'll get the harmonies. The piano comes in with some descending figures. Trumpet and guitar weave mysterious melodies, and it gets kind of hypnotic. But there's definitely no place for Ginger Baker to come in if you know the original. He'd be locked down to the wall in the back room. So
I want to say I don't mean that they're not free in the sense that they're not playing freely. I mean just the mood of the song is like doesn't sound like these people feel like they're free. So please don't misinterpret that. Okay.
Then we've got not Beyond the Waves, but On the Shore, Arne Janssen tune number 9. This starts out with some really ominous bass piano notes, but then a soft unison guitar and trumpet melody comes on top, and they trade improvised phrases and return to the melody. And this one is a very nice sort of scenic effect. It is very evocative of being on the shore of the ocean. Maybe one of the lighter tunes on the album, and atmospheric. Then number 10, a tune by the trumpeter Sebastian Studnitsky called Corona Solitude. This is in 6/8 time. The trumpet plays a melody over kind of piano chords, and it opens up a bit more with some guitar.
I'm wondering if this is a coronavirus reference, by the way.
I think it is, somewhat inspired by the corona situation.
Solitude, it kind of sounds like it might be.
And definitely invokes a feeling of solitude here. Then track 11, the old jazz standard Angel Eyes by Matt Dennis. And then, again, you'll get Angel Eyes, but when it starts out, you'll be like, whoa. There's a funky riff start here, very funky, into some bluesy piano and trumpet doodling, and then guitar and trumpet work together until finally it mellows to this familiar melody in the trumpet over the piano. Do, 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 do. Angel Eyes, as played by so many jazz musicians. And then, but after that, a new rhythmic piano backing starts, and the trumpet and guitar trade lines, and they start really going out there, away from the normal harmonic progressions, and the piano keeps it funky. But before they get way out there, it comes back to the melody for the ending. And then we've got a final tune called Surrounded by the Night, and this is credited to Peter Madsen. Some very low-toned piano playing, and then some echoey floating trumpet lines. And then the trumpet introduces the mournful melody. Guitar takes on a short interlude and then joins the trumpet, and you really get surrounded by the night, by the end of this track, which ends the album. And
One more thing we should mention about this album: there are a lot of altered instrumental sounds produced by the musicians, like things like hands on the piano, strings, spitting sounds into the valve of the trumpet, that that kind of sound. It's all atmospheric and dark. I always feel like there are chimes in the piano and the guitar, they're like harmonics on the guitar, these kind of things. I feel like a lot of these sounds, though, when you're putting your hands in the piano and like kind of strumming the strings like it's a harp, it's always the same sound. And I think we've heard it. I kind of don't like hearing it. They place them well on this album. I mean, it adds to the atmosphere. I mean, but I don't know. I just kind of, I get put off by those sounds. Yeah. This album I thought was, I didn't dislike it, but it's just a bit too much of a bummer for me. I kind of...
It's not uplifting in any way. I didn't dislike it. I was intrigued.
I was interested to hear it.
I was interested. I was sort of intrigued by the extremely breathy trumpet, sound. But then even the trumpet gets sort of processed. He's using some sort of effects in some place there. The guitar effects are used atmospherically too, mostly tastefully, I would say. But the sort of overall impression of the recording is very atmospheric. And I'm not sure that aligns with my idea of the cool. I mean, the arrangements are interesting. They do generally keep it melodic. I like the freeness of not having drums because the tempos become free. But at the same time, the interpretations to me are, especially in the piano rhythmic choices, become a bit more popish than jazzy.
It's certainly original, though. I mean, the approach is very, unique.
So I didn't dislike it, but at the same time, I don't. When I listen to cool jazz, I'm sort of left with a breezy effect, and here I'm sort of left, sort of with like a low pressure system a bit. So, to me, it's not really the new cool. I enjoyed it.
It's the new something, though. I don't know.
It's new something, yeah. I do like the combination, guitar, piano, and trumpet, but it didn't. It was sort of unexpected final result for me from it. So,
and there we go. Another. So there it is, listeners. You've all been Frenched.
You've been Frenched,
and now it's time to get a Brazilian.
I don't know. Can I get a Mongolian instead? Because
I don't know. All right.
From the neck down, I don't think I have that much time to commit to this process.
So listeners, thanks for listening. Please give us 5-star rating. Write to us and explain to me what "Get a Brazilian" means, because I really don't know. I just heard it and repeated it. So
I think it means like have a sandwich from that meat on the big skewer, doesn't it?
I don't think that's what it means.
Really? Because that's what I would do.
But I'd be willing to redefine it that way.
I thought it was a barbecue kind of thing,
I guess in a way you could say it is, but I don't know.
I'm not sure. But anyway, if you like the podcast and you'd like to hear more, please do subscribe, follow on whatever platform you listen to us on. And if you could take a moment to give us a rating or write a comment, it'll help us get
five stars, please. 5 stars. We're new. We need it for the algorithm.
That's right.
If you don't like us, don't rate us.
If you look at the music commentary categories, it is plagued with K-pop podcasts. And how much can there be to say about K-pop compared to the European Western classical tradition and the continually evolving jazz idiom? It can't be worth as many stars as those things. So,
well, I guess it depends on who you are.
I guess it depends on who you are. That's right.
Yeah.
In any case,
we are, after all, aging and uncool. So
that's right.
There you go.
But whatever platform you listen to us on, also remember that on you should be able to see it on whatever platform you listen to, but in the episode description, we do include the links to Apple and Spotify streaming for all the albums we discuss. But even more convenient is the complete podcast playlist on Deezer, which you'll find all the music in one place, all 6 hours of it for each episode. One click, you can listen to all of the tunes. And you can also follow us there on Deezer or on any of the other major platforms. Yeah, we're on all of those. And
so adultify your tastes in music. Give it a listen and enjoy. There's some good stuff out there.
That's right.
There's stuff for adults too. We just need to hear it, to be exposed to it.
Just be exposed. So we had a French take. I'm not sure what next week will bring, but I will say that in the next few weeks there's some big surprises coming up in the personal context area, and we'll leave it at that. And we'll see what comes up in the next few episodes for new tunes. But there's a lot of music being released in the early summer in both classical and jazz recordings. And so until next week, this has been Adult Music, episode 15, and we'll see you again soon.